Hi everyone, this is Lauren from the LKS Address and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We just finished a year-long backyard renovation project. We vlogged through the whole process. If you haven't seen that video yet, we will leave a link in the description below for you to check it out. But we thought it would be a great idea to follow up that video with a quick backyard tour. We're gonna walk through all of the elements we chose to do in our backyard, from our patio to our garden to our gazebo. Then we're also going to do a quick night tour because we incorporated a bunch of solar lights and ambient lighting and it looks amazing. So we'd love to share that with you. We're going to go through some of the most frequently asked questions that we got on our backyard project. One being how much it cost us. And then we're also going to go through a couple ways that you could save money if you want to tackle a backyard project like this for yourself. So come along and let's take a tour of our finished backyard. We're going to start our backyard tour at our new concrete patio. We used to have an existing wood deck here and we ultimately decided to remove the deck and pour this concrete patio. This is a 16 by 24 foot patio and we incorporated a 4x4 control joint grid to make it a little bit more interesting. We didn't want to do stamped concrete or pavers. We wanted to keep it concrete so it stayed super practical, and we feel like adding the grid really amps up the design and makes it a little bit more interesting. The main component of our patio is our seating area. We have a 5-piece outdoor furniture set. This furniture set is modular. It can be configured in a lot of different ways. Right now we have it set up with a 3-piece sofa and then 2 single chairs on each side, and they are centered around the focal point, which is this outer stone gas fire pit. We have this centered and looking out onto the garden, which is so lovely, and we really like that this incorporates some natural stone into the seating area, which kind of ties into the natural look of the pea gravel. One of the coolest parts about our outdoor sofa is the outer shell. This is a cover that unrolls over the cushions and the pillows and velcros on, so you can carry the cushions in and out as needed and they can stay protected. One thing we also want to mention is that our style is a juxtaposition between traditional and modern. So you'll notice that our garden is pretty traditional. We've got the urn, we've got the garden beds. So we wanted to mix in the clean modern elements into the furniture on purpose. Since the focal point of our patio area is the seating, we still wanted to use a little bit of the extra space to incorporate a little dining bistro table. It's just Cam and I, so we're 2 people. We did not need a huge dining room table at this point in time, so we picked up this wood bistro table set from At Home, including the table, chairs, and cushions. We've eaten dinner out here a couple times, and it's honestly been really, really nice, and it's working out well for us. This is a really affordable option to incorporate a little dining room table into your patio. When we poured the concrete patio, there was a bit of grade change between the inside of our house, so we opted to do 2 steps the width of our slider, and we knew we wanted to like frame this in a way to make it the entrance to our outdoor area. So we incorporated these 2 planters. These are from At Home too. We'll leave everything linked in the description below. And I hunted down the topiaries from Costco. They are such a good deal and they've held up beautifully. These also tie into topiaries we have in the front of the house, which is really nice, but I love how this frames it out. And we started changing out some of the light fixtures. This is from Pookie. This is the Crail Outdoor Sconce. Love the touch of brass that it adds, and it ties into some of the other brass accents that we've incorporated at the patio. Once we had the patio poured, we moved our attention to the landscaping. This is all brand new landscaping. We started from scratch. We hired a local landscape designer to help have our vision come to life. Even though I'm an architect, I am not really that familiar with planting and landscape design, so we opted to have some help, and it was a really affordable option. A designer at a local nursery where they would source all the plants. It worked out really, really well. We are standing in our garden. We have 2 8-foot Vago corrugated metal raised planter beds in the color green. Absolutely love these beds, super happy with them so far. The garden has thrived. Besides pest taking over some of my cabbage and kale, which we're gonna solve next year with some row covers. They are sitting in pea gravel. This adds a really natural organic element to the garden, which we really love. We finished the pea gravel area with steel metal edging, which holds the gravel in and provides a transition to the mulch and planting areas. And then we finished the garden off with this centerpiece urn. It brings a really traditional touch and makes it feel more like a formal garden, which is what we were going for. We got this urn and pedestal off Wayfair. It's fiberglass. It was a really affordable option to incorporate an urn into our backyard, and we finished it off with some white and green planting to provide an accent to the garden. We finished off the patio and the garden with a perimeter of planting. We incorporated a mix of different types of boxwoods. We'll leave all the plants in the description below. I don't know them all off the top of my head right now. And then we also incorporated some pollinator plants at the edge of the garden to help pollinate, which the bees have absolutely loved these. It's been so cool to see all of the nature and things that have come into our backyard since we've planted all of this and planted the garden. We love how this kind of just frames the whole backyard and makes the garden area and the patio be like really one element and super cohesive. This area right here, this was partially our existing deck. It ended right here at the end of the bay window, and we knew we did not want to extend the patio to where the deck was because we really wanted to focus on the view outside of the bay window and looking at planting and greenery rather than looking at the new patio that we're going to put in. So we incorporated a row of hydrangeas and hoping in the future these really grow in and there'll be a nice scene from inside the house. And then we again transition into the perimeter boxwoods that wrap around the patio. Our last big problem area that we had to solve was our gazebo. We pulled out all of the landscaping when we moved into this house because it was really overgrown and we really wanted to start from scratch, but we've been fighting growth and weeds for 3 years before we got this landscaping done. We also had an existing fire pit and the bed was a lot bigger in front of the gazebo. We wanted to kind of pare everything down, simplify it, and make sure it had a cohesive look around the whole gazebo. So our landscape designer proposed doing a circle bed around the perimeter of the gazebo, which we thought was a great idea to kind of contrast the square deck that it sits on. In the front, we did a mix of planting, incorporated some of the boxwoods that you see at the perimeter of the patio to kind of tie everything together. And then most of the perimeter of the gazebo area is hydrangeas. And again, hoping someday these grow in really, really well and provide kind of a hedge around the gazebo area, which will be magical to sit in the gazebo and just look out at the hydrangeas. That'll wrap up our backyard tour. You might have noticed that we've incorporated some solar lighting and lighting elements at the garden, and the sun is about to set, so we would love to share a quick night tour of what the garden and backyard looks like with all of our accent lighting. Not sure if you all think like me, but nothing around here for me is ever 100% done. So I want to talk about a couple projects that we have in mind that we might tackle in the future in the next couple years. The first project being this area with the grill. I would love to incorporate and DIY an outdoor kitchen. A few people we follow have done that and it's turned out amazing. You might know that Cam and I love to cook and we love to come out and grill as much as possible. So I think it would be amazing to incorporate an outdoor kitchen here someday. Another future project we have in mind is expanding the garden. We wanted to start out keeping the garden pretty small and manageable, like 2 beds, because we've never gardened before and we wanted to see if we truly enjoyed it before we incorporated a massive garden. And also for budgetary constraints, we needed to limit the size of the garden so we could keep the overall budget down. But someday we could see ourselves expanding the pea gravel area back here on this side and also on this side, and incorporating 2 more 8-foot garden beds, which would kind of complete the formal garden area and would be really, really nice. So we'll see how gardening goes over the next year or 2, but you might see us expanding our garden someday. And for the last future project that we're considering, which might be the project we do the soonest, is kind of overhauling our gazebo. We pressure cleaned our gazebo a few months ago and it is looking kind of rough. It could use a fresh coat of stain, which we've actually already picked out. We just haven't had time to do the work, and we would love to replace the light fixtures, the fan, and add appropriate furnishings, and maybe someday even screen it in so we have a little bit of a screened in area in our backyard. Hopefully this gets an overhaul soon, but we just haven't had time to do it yet. Okay, after our last video, we got lots of questions and lots of comments. We wanted to take some time to address a couple, and I think one of the most asked questions is, what was the overall cost of this backyard project, and what are some ways to save money on a backyard project? If you want to tackle this, we're going to touch on budget with a full budget breakdown later, but first let's talk about our AC unit. One of the questions we got is, are we going to be screening our AC unit? And I love questions because it either highlights the things that we have been thinking about that we haven't done yet, or gives us ideas for the future. We briefly talked about screening the AC unit, but we haven't gotten into it yet. Honestly, it doesn't really bother me at the end of the day. It's kind of tucked off to the side. We more so look out the other direction. So for now, we're not going to be screening the AC unit, but someday I could see us putting up like a wood slat fence or some more planting to just screen it a little bit more, but we'll keep that for the future. Okay, the next question we got was, what gardening zone are we? We are outside of Chicago in the Chicago suburbs, and our gardening zone is 5B, so we should be transitioning to fall and cool weather plants very soon. Also, another comment and suggestion we got in the garden, which I think is a very popular topic, is using mulch glue at the pea gravel. Are we gonna do this? I was totally pro mulch glue to kind of like just glue down the pea gravel and make sure it's really nice and keep it from mixing into the other landscaping before we started this project, and Cam wasn't really keen on that. But I have to say, I love the organic look of not having it glued down, and I love the texture of walking on it. It just like feels really natural and it's fun to walk on. So for now, we're not going to be using any mulch glue at our pea gravel. One of the next questions we got is, are we going to do a larger dining table? We were originally thinking of doing a seating area and a dining room on our patio, but we felt it was going to be too crowded. So we thought this little bistro table would be perfect, and we've eaten here a couple times. How is it working out for us?
I think it satisfies the need. If we started to entertain more or like have people over all the time, we could look into a bigger one, but I think this is suiting our need so far.
Yep, and that can actually lead us into our next question about the gazebo. Okay, speaking of the gazebo, we got lots of comments that our striped lounge chairs aren't the appropriate furniture for the gazebo, and we totally agree. We have not really changed anything in the gazebo yet. As you can see, it still needs work. We've already talked about that. But going back to the dining room table, is we could eventually add a dining room table in this area if we entertain more, like Cam said, but also we thought it would be like really cool to either have like a hanging chair or just like really comfy swivel chairs to come hang out, right?
Yeah, maybe someday, but we'll see what happens. You can cut that part out. That was terrible.
What?
I had no value to add. I have no value to add.
So we can leave the gazebo up to the imagination for now, but that about wraps up the FAQs we were going to answer. Let's get to the juicy stuff. How much this whole backyard project actually cost us. The first step was demoing our existing deck, and that was $1,500. After we demoed the deck, we needed to patch the siding on the back of our house from where the deck was, and that was $1,000. The next step in the process was pouring our new concrete patio. This is a 16 by 24 foot patio with the 4x4 grid and 2 steps. That cost us $8,000. After the patio was done, it was time to hire a landscape designer and start thinking about the landscaping. The landscape designer cost us $200, and I think that was worth every penny. We love the ideas that she came up with, and I definitely think she did a better job than what we could have done, not having too much experience in plants and landscaping. After that, our landscaping quote was ready, and they did all the work, and in total, our landscape ended up costing us $10,000. I'm gonna preface by saying $5,000 of that was labor. So we'll get into ways that you can save money later, but that is one really good way to save money. Once the landscaping was done, we had a couple little finishing touches to add to the backyard. Next thing was the garden beds. The garden beds were $340 for both beds. We had the urn and the pedestal planter. That was $330. And lastly, we finished off the backyard, an assortment of solar lighting, and that was $220. In total, the backyard cost us $21,590. Like I said, we don't have any regrets, and that is a lot of money, and I'm really glad that the backyard ended up taking us over a year from start to finish so that those costs could kind of be dispersed throughout the year, and it made it hurt a little bit less. Let's talk about 3 different ways you could save money on a project like this. Number 1 being demo. If you're willing to do the demo yourself, it's a really good way to save money, and you don't need a lot of experience or skill to do the demo. So that's a good option. And that leads us into option number 2. Another way to save money is through labor. Labor can end up being almost half of the cost of projects like this when you hire out. So if you're willing to do the labor yourself and you only need to buy material, that's a great way to save money. We opted not to do the labor on this project. We did not want to plant and landscape the backyard ourselves. So this was different for us, as we do 90% of the projects in our house ourselves. And lastly, number 3 is to limit the scope of the work or the size of the project. We had to pare down our backyard design so that it fit into our budget, and we can build on that in years to come and add to the backyard as we see fit. But for now, limiting the size really helped us bring it down to our budget and made it feasible for us this year. That's 3 different ways you could save money on this project if you want to tackle something similar in the future. And with that, we're gonna wrap up the video here. We hope you enjoyed our backyard tour and our whole backyard project. It has been a dream come true, and we have found ourselves using this backyard more than we ever imagined, and we cannot wait to see the plants mature and use it for years to come.
So on that note, thanks for watching. Please thumbs up the video if you liked what you saw, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.